Hello, and welcome to Unweaving the Wheel, a podcast where we analyze and react to the episodes of Amazon Prime's Wheel of Time.
Intro music by Brandon Tolley.
I'm Z, and I haven't read The Wheel of Time, so I am reacting and analyzing just what the show is giving me.
I'm Gavin, and I am a Wheel of Time superfan and have read the entire series at least 4 times.
We will be doing a mostly spoiler-free discussion, hopefully giving you some interesting notes and connections from both my point of view and from Gavin's. Mostly spoiler-free means that we'll avoid talking about major plot points. We'll go through the episode, but we'll try to avoid spoiling anything past the episode we're currently talking about. And we'll give a few minutes near the end for Gav to kind of make connections of small plot points that otherwise might not be talked about in the show, in case the show is missing some things. Because it's like 15 books to this series, and there's obviously going to be some things they don't get to. But we won't be spoiling major things like character deaths, series ending, or who the Dragon Reborn is. World building, though, and things that aren't explicitly stated in the show but do affect it will be discussed. And this is about episode 1, Leave-Taking.
Yee.
So quick summary. In this episode, we're introduced to all the main players and the concept of the Wheel of Time. Our main character, Moraine, does a voiceover, and we see a bunch of scary women in red cloaks appear and kill a dude, supposedly with magic. It's a little creepy. We then get to see the entire town push another main character, Egwene, into a river. Because we trust this river to decide who lives or dies.
Egwene.
Egwene. I'm going to say her name so wrong.
Yeah, I love Egwene.
I'm so sorry, Egwene. Egwene. I need to think Wayne, not egg.
Yeah, my brother, when he was reading it, we were talking about it. So I also listen to the audiobooks that have like the Tor audio approved pronunciations of everything. And so my brother thought Egwene's name was Egwidgen.
Oh god.
Because of the way it's spelt.
I get it.
I was like, nah, it's Egwene.
There's a lot of names in this that I have trouble with. Side note while we talk about this. We both have ADHD, by the way, so this podcast is going to be a little chaotic. But I can say Nynaeve if I'm looking at it, but I also have dyslexia. So when I try to think about her name, there's so many N's, E's, and there's a Y in there, and my brain just scrambles her name. So if I'm not looking at her name, like I literally have it written down, and that's the only reason I just was able to say it. I can't say her name. I also have a bit of a problem with Moraine, but after a while I've gotten in. But I think Egwene. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you got it now.
Cool. Egwene is going to be a little hard for me because it is spelled Egwene. In the show, at least, in the captions. So my brain sees Egwene. Egwene. Okay. I'll get it, I swear. Anyway, everyone pushes Egwene into the river. We see the town, we meet people in the town, everyone's preparing to celebrate a holiday that appears the holiday is about bringing spirits back to the town after they have passed, and we meet the other main characters, Matt and Rand and Perrin. Uh, Moraine and Lan arrive at the town, as does a traitor, while Moraine walks around creepily trying to figure out which kid is the dragon. Rand and Egwene have drama and then separate and go back to preparing for the town's holiday. And then everything changes when the Trollics attack.
Yeah, everything goes to shit real quick.
Oh, so quickly. Um, I have notes on that later as well, but I wanted to get my overall thoughts. And my main thought is that the show does several things very, very well, but it does them very quickly.
Right.
It definitely kind of has that pilot feel of like punch, 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 punch.
Oh yeah,
Get
no,
everything out.
they throw you straight into it.
So quickly. So, like, even a small thing, like, the show immediately starts with Moraine's voiceover, which, side note, I don't really like voiceovers in anything. So, uh, not a big fan of just that. But, like, for example, compared to, like, Lord of the Rings' voiceover, it gives you time to get into into it. It shows you the beautiful scenery, the music starts to subtly swell, and then the voiceover comes in. This is just like, bam, Moraine is talking.
Yeah, exposition.
Exposition immediately. Listen, we got a lot of places to do and not a lot of time to do it, so we're going fast. It's not bad. It's just quick. It hits you fast. Um, though what it does do very well is immediately establish characters. Uh, you pretty much immediately know with each introduction who they are and what they want. Um, it does this by kind of having us start in each character's middle of their what they think is their personal story so far. We meet Moraine and Lan when they've already been looking for the dragon reborn. We meet Egwene when she's at her ceremony to become a woman in the village. And we meet Rand and Perrin and Matt where they already kind of have an established life. They might not be at the end of their lives, they might not be completed on anything, but they kind of already have a feeling of where their lives are going. Perrin is married, Matt is kind of a gambler. But you know, just instantly we know, like, okay, here's who these guys are. And something I really wanted to talk about was the interesting way they do this with the town as a whole. Specifically, when Lan and Moraine get into town. When Lan first gets into town, we're immediately introduced to his feet.
You're talking about the tavern scene, right?
The tavern scene when Lan walks in, and I just found this scene so fascinating because we know who Lan and Moraine are already. We know they're looking for the Dragon Reborn. In the previous scenes that we've just seen them in, they're kind of established as good guys. We think they're good guys, right? Like, maybe not the best guys, but we understand and we sympathize with their goals.
Right.
But when
Well,
they
it's
are
like we're introduced to it as like it's like her beginning monologue is like very much the hero getting ready for a quest
exactly,
thing.
they immediately establish these are the protagonists, but then we are introduced to them view through the town's view. And the way they introduce them in the show is like they're villains. You see his feet, and then the
Like
camera switches to
the
everyone's
unhooding of the cowl thing.
the unhooding, but also the people's faces.
Oh,
Everyone
they're
goes from being,
horrified.
yeah, everyone just immediately gets tense. Also, Lan just walks in there with his hood down all the way, and it's like, bruh, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Yeah, and what it was like, Nynaeve's already got her hand on her knife, like ready to shank someone.
Exactly. Nynaeve's like, who the hell are you? What
I'm
are you
like,
doing in my
I'm
town?
I'm ready to fight. What's up?
I am not about this. And then Moraine walks in, and people recognize, oh, that's an Aes Sedai, and they immediately are in awe, but also scared.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
exactly what's going on. They do in a lot of the scenes where people are finding out they flash her ring. They tend to do close-ups on the ring, and
Yes.
that's like the signifier of an Aes Sedai.
Yeah, you have a fancy ring, you're an Aes Sedai. And I just found this really interesting from a viewer's standpoint as well, because remember, we were introduced to these characters kind of like they were protagonists, and now we're being reintroduced to them as though they are the bad guys. So it kind of creates this interest in the viewer's mind of like, well, who are these guys then? Are they the good guys? Are they the bad guys? What is happening? You're kind of confused. You're like, what? But good confusion.
Right.
it's,
It's interesting.
it's interesting. It's an intriguing thing. And that all happens within the first 15 minutes. Like, it
Yeah.
is very fast how quickly we are setting all this up.
You're given a
Um,
lot to think about real fast.
and I just kind of wanted to point out that the only kind of problem with that quickness is that it comes off as very shallow. So I feel like I know all of the characters equally, but I know them all very shallowly. I could speak.
Right. It's like
Um,
you get the snapshots of all of them, but you don't, you're
exactly.
not immediately attached to anyone or know what's going on in their head.
Right, except for Lan.
Yeah,
I
you
loved
immediately
Lan.
fell in love with Lan.
I like Lan won my heart when he helped Moraine get up onto her horse earlier in the episode. He got up. I literally made a note that like, oh, he's so nice. I am a Lan simper, 100%. Immediately,
I
just was like, Lan's the
don't know
best.
how I feel about that,
I don't care how you feel about it.
because it's weird, because in the books I simp for Lan for completely different reasons.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting.
You're just like, oh,
um,
he's so nice and helpful and like chivalrous, and I'm just like, yeah, I like him for different reasons. Like, you're not
I mean,
wrong.
he's also spoilers for more further into the episode, but he's also a badass. Like, he's obviously very loyal to Moraine, which I think they talk about in a different episode, so we can go into that later. But he I really enjoy his character, and I especially
Yeah,
enjoyed it. Like episode one, already really liked the guy. The next few episodes, I was like, this guy's just he's the best. He's my
yeah,
favorite.
he's cool.
um,
He's a crowd favorite.
but yeah, so right now all we really get in this episode is archetypes of people. Um, I'm still and which is fine. It's the first episode. Not expecting. It's just like one thing to note is you don't get a real deep connection with anyone except Lan. um so yeah, so that's like such a all the characters have such strong introductions, each and every one of them. Probably the weakest introductions are for Rand and Matt and Perrin, just because we're not given conflict or like excitement for them, but we still get that strong introduction of like these are the homebodies. Rand likes being
Well,
in
later
town.
in the episode, there's some conflict for him that I
Right,
would argue makes them interesting.
you get a little um
You get a little bit more character
just
depth
sprinkle.
during the Trollic fights.
Yeah, you get a sprinkle of it that make you kind of care a little more for the characters. um but not just talking about the characters, I also wanted to talk about the atmosphere that it creates. And 10 points to anyone who's listening who knows what I'm talking about, but the movie Willow from the 70s, I don't know exactly how to like break it down, but I get Willow vibes. Like, to me, this could be happening in the same universe as Willow,
I
just in
think
a different
the
time period.
I think the thing that kind of links them is that there's this like weird uh combination of like fantasy mystical whimsiness and
Yes.
then extreme dark
Yes.
vibes. It's
Yeah,
that
I think
combination of
that.
just like, this is a
I think
whimsical magical world where fucked up shit happens.
I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail on the head there because I even make the comparison that the Trollics look like death dogs. To be fair, I compare everything to the death dogs from Willow because I was like 6 when I first saw Willow. So that was really my first experience with like scary, horrific mishmash monster.
Right.
Um, to be fair, the death dogs are also like a sixth of the size of the Trollocs, but in my head, I saw the Trollocs come on screen and I was like, it's a death dog, it's a big mutated death dog. Um, Side note, if you like this podcast, leave us a like and let me know if you want us to do a Willow podcast when that show comes out.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot they were making a Willow show.
I know. I think it's still in production right now. I don't even know when it's supposed to come out, but yeah, they're making a Willow
Gotcha.
show. Um I'm excited but concerned. Anyway, what else helps the vibes is just the scenery is so gorgeous.
Oh, it's so
And
beautiful.
I don't know if it is like fake or real.
No, they my brother and I were actually talking about this. It's real scenery.
Oh,
Trying to remember where it was, but it's like
listen, Lord of the Rings established New Zealand for me as a place I dearly wanted to visit and like even live. I'd love to live in New Zealand. Um, for more than just the reasons that I love Lord of the Rings. um, but now I want to live in Two Rivers too. This
yeah,
place is awesome.
I can't remember specifically, but it was something like it's like filmed in like the Czech Republic and like Bosnia.
That's crazy. I
Like
had no idea it was
apparently
still
there's
real.
like mountain ranges and valleys there, and they flew everyone out there to film all that.
It's crazy. And even the set designs, like the village, just looks so cozy. You know? Like,
Oh yeah, no, it straight up looks like when you've got like the minifigs for like Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah.
Like they're just like, here's your, farmer village, but like real life size. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
I love it. My family always does little well, not always, but frequently we've put out a little like Christmas town around our Christmas tree.
Right.
And I'm just like, can I just make a small model version of Two Rivers to put around my Christmas tree? Because this place is cute as hell, especially with all the little lanterns lighting it up. Um, but yeah, so another thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the lulling us into a false sense of security.
Oh boy, howdy, do they do that? They're
Oh, they're just like, oh, look
like,
at the
oh,
happy little
everything's happy,
holiday.
everyone's getting drunk and being merry,
Props
but
to my husband, who I was watching it again with. I watched it twice. Um, but as we were watching through it, he already knew that things had gone to hell because he saw me watching it initially. But he was like, I don't see a wedding, but I do see red. Like, he called it, and I was like, I'm impressed you called it because I had no idea this was coming. I was just watching Egwene have a good old time dancing, and then her dance partner has an axe halfway through him. I just woof.
like to compare it, it's like the beginning of the Lord of the Rings. There's Bilbo's birthday party. Now imagine the ring wraiths showed up at his
Oh
birthday
yeah,
party.
that's yeah,
That's how the
basically.
show starts. There's no like, oh, we have to like leave the next morning and then get chased. It's like, no, they show up at the party.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciated how things immediately fall into pandemonium. Um, and it kind of gives you whiplash to go from this cute whimsy to just straight up here's this minotaur ass looking dude with an axe.
Just
um
straight murking people. Like I was shocked when I first saw this because part of me was almost like going into this thinking that it was kind of be like almost family friendly
mm,
fantasy. Like I thought it was going to be kind of like PG-13, but no, like they're straight up like disemboweling people.
and eating them.
yeah, I was just like, oh my god, I'm
Yeah,
here
I
for it.
the amount of gore, I
Oh, it's
wasn't
great.
ready for it.
Neither
And
were the villagers.
true. Though, um, I really appreciated one, I appreciated when we switched to Rand and his dad and they just kind of look at the door and you could just tell there's this half second of them going, we got a fight here.
Shit.
Shit about to go down. Um so smart on them. Loved that characterization of them too. But I also appreciated how like everyone's initial response is to hide. Like everyone just tries to get away, right? And
Yeah.
then after a few minutes of, getting killed by Trollics, that changes. And the villagers start to fight back.
Yeah, there's
And
that one awesome scene where it's one of the Copland women. She's
oh, she
got
was
like one of the
awesome.
rakes, like the thatching rake, and she's just like, all right, like come at me, bro.
Yeah, like I think she had seen the Trolloc eating someone, and she was like, "You want a taste?" And I was
Yeah.
just like, "This woman is ready to go down swinging," and I love
Yeah.
her. What a great, again, the characterization not only of our main characters but of the entire town is so well done. It just establishes the culture of the town really so
Yeah.
well. But also in any other show, it would just be an utter slaughter. Like
Oh
so
yeah.
rarely do we get
There'd be no
no,
survivors. There'd be like the
yeah,
10 people who fled, like just left,
yeah,
but they're like the people who went hiding would be dead.
exactly. Um, but I really just liked having that moment of like, no, wait, they're gonna fight. Um, so that was something I just really appreciated. Again, kind of not just building the main characters, but also creating a culture of, oh, you surprised us, you caught us with our pants down, but now we're gonna fight you naked.
Yeah, I think they bring it up as like a reference sometimes throughout the episode, but it's a really big thing in the book, and this isn't any type of spoiler, just a thing to know about, but it's everyone makes the comment of you two rivers folk are stubborn as mules.
Right.
And that's a very common phrase that's used, is that people from the two rivers are obnoxiously stubborn and refuse to give in.
You're right. And that they definitely build that throughout even just the first episode. Um Another thing to talk about is Rand's dad just turning into a badass out of nowhere.
Oh, dude, it's great.
It's so
I'm
good.
here for Tamal Thor.
um
Daddy Rand is pretty great.
but I also like that even though you can tell, okay, this guy's a badass, he's going up against a big monster thing, he still doesn't
Yeah,
win the fight.
yeah, he really doesn't. Like
Like he
it
is dying, and if Rand hadn't stepped in, which shout out to Rand for just immediately doing the Jackie Chan school of fighting and just picking up the nearest thing. Hitting
Yeah,
it
like
with
he
it.
just like slaps him with a chair, and then the thing he killed him with a fire poker.
Yeah, like
Like it wasn't even the spear that his dad used earlier. He picked up the fire poker and just shoved it through a Trollic's neck.
yeah. Really just I always love that. I love it when
Just
a character
improvised fighting.
has yeah, the improvised fighting. I grew up watching Jackie Chan movies, so to me it's like I see Jackie Chan start beating someone up with a stepladder, I'm like, hell yeah. It's awesome. Um so that was really great. And it again kind of gives us this characterization of Rand as being this guy who just does not give up. He's like you would have to put Rand down permanently for him to stop.
Yeah, and they almost like immediately follow that up with Egwene and Nynaeve being cornered by a Trollic, and
Oh, and
Nynaeve
then
doesn't even bat an eyelash and pulls out her belt knife and just immediately starts like shivving this Trollic in the side.
I wasn't sure how I felt about Nynaeve on my initial watch through, but multiple watch throughs later, I'm like, Nynaeve's awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
she's pretty like fearless. Like she will stare death in the eye and just be like, "Fuck you.
yeah,
You're going down
like,
with me."
and I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but also another thing they included was she screams at it before she attacks it. Anytime a female character does that, I'm like, hell yeah, because that is exactly what I would do. I will
Yeah,
scream at anything trying to kill me. Um,
got to get your battle cry out.
exactly. Um, so I just love her, and I love the intense feminine energy, the intense not matriarchal, but maternal energy of her. So she's so protective. She's a healer. She's, important to the town,
Yeah.
but she is a fighter. And it's often women characters who are portrayed as warriors or portrayed as fighters tend to be overly masculine, which isn't necessarily a problem. I say this as someone who is pretty masculine in myself. Like I'm not overly feminine, you know. Um, but I just really appreciated the way they did this, where it's like, yes, the women in this town are feminine, and there's this womanly, I guess, pride,
Yeah.
and and stuff. But there's also this like, no, we're the women, but we're gonna fight to the death. Just love that. And again, I feel like in so many other shows, you don't really get much of that. And if you do get a woman fighter, it's kind of like Brienne of Tarth, you know.
Right, where there's
Where
clearly a skew of just like, they're like they themselves the character don't feel particular feminine.
Right. And they are viewed by the other characters as more masculine as well. So it's like the society views them as masculine because they're a warrior. Whereas I get the feeling in this that, okay, you're viewed as a woman, but you're also viewed as a fighter, and that doesn't take away from your femininity.
Yeah.
And again, there's no problem with that. I love Brienne of Tarth. I love Mulan. I love pretty much any character who's kind of masculinizes themselves. Again, I am very masculine, but I just appreciate a show showing, okay, these women, there's a strong feminine view here, but even their fighting is for maternal instinct fight, you know? It is I
Yeah.
will protect my town, I will protect this place. Um or I will protect my people. Really loved that. Also, Nynaeve's a badass, and I low key simp for her. Not as hard as I simp for Lan, just a little. um, and then you have the
Then you
gross
have
moment.
oh
I was gonna talk about Moraine just like air bending a Trollic in half.
oh yeah. So
um,
this was something that I wanted to talk about was that because I'm such a big fan of the Wheel of Time, and so I've been following the production of the show the whole entire time that they've been talking about it, and like they started talking about it like 2 years ago, 2 years plus, and then because of COVID, obviously a lot of things got delayed,
right.
and they couldn't be in as production and when they wanted to. But it's been like one of the things where I've been like following the casting and any clips of anything, and so like this is one of the first. This isn't our first like introduction to magic. Our first introduction with the magic is with the women on horseback uh chasing the
Yeah,
two men, and she collapses a canyon. But like this is the first like really overt use of magic.
yeah,
um and when I saw the trailers, I was really skeptical because I came at this skeptical to begin with. Like I love this book series. It's probably my favorite book series.
Right.
So it's always that thing where it's like, I'm excited they're making a show out of this, but I'm worried that they're going to do it poorly. And so this was one of the things that I saw in the trailer that it gave me a little concern, because at least from the trailer and even parts in the show, Moraine's use of magic comes off like a little cheesy, but
Yeah.
seeing the full thing, it's not bad. It's not bad, but
It's
it's very visual in like her movement. There's a lot of dramatic body movement
I
and a
definitely.
lot of special effects happening.
Mhm.
So
I
it's still
definitely.
a little weird, but it's fine.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a fine balance because there's obviously we compared it a little bit to, and I've been comparing her magic in my notes to airbending and earthbending and firebending.
Yeah,
A lot of
from
elemental
Atla.
bending. Yeah, from Avatar: Last Airbender. But it also the movements don't quite hit that. I do like that some of the movements are very dancey, you know? Whereas like with
Yeah.
Avatar, it was very martial arts, which was cool, like obviously. And then you have the magicians, which they're doing tutting, hand tutting, which
They're throwing ninjutsu, let's be honest.
yeah, basically. Um which was cool, but sometimes it was like I just make a tiny hand movement and then a thing explodes.
Yeah.
So that was almost too far on the other end for me, where it was like that was something epic, but you barely did anything for it. So I don't quite think the choreography is there yet, but I'm hoping they kind of can balance the obnoxious movements with maybe some more subtle movements, you know?
Yeah,
Um
I think they will. I think it works for like a big combat scene. It makes sense. But yeah, it was just weird. Another like, comparison to the books where like there isn't really in the books any associated movement with using the magic. Like realistically an Aes Sedai could be standing perfectly still and
mm,
set something on fire,
right.
because it's all, it's kind of a mental thing.
Got it.
But like I understand why they wouldn't want to do that for the show, because then you just have a woman standing there and shit's
Magic.
happening and you're like,
Yeah.
what the hell's happening right now?
Um
So it makes sense for a visual.
yeah, and again, I feel like they did pretty good. There are a couple of movements she does where it's like the CGI isn't quite
Yeah, the
as
CGI is not perfect and it never will be, so
well, it's not so much that it's not perfect, but like the CGI around her doesn't match the big movements she's doing.
yeah,
Just
I
in a
get
couple
that.
of little spots where it's just um like when she throws the fireballs.
The fireballs look weird. Those are probably the things that look the weirdest.
Yeah, I don't quite think those worked out that well, but
Because like the backbend she does is so dramatic, but like I feel like the
and then free.
fireball launch like doesn't start until she's back up straight.
Yeah. I feel like
So
that should have been like an AoE, you know? Like it should have been like she leans when she does the lean forward part, it should have been like fire is now everywhere, you
yeah.
know? So I like the big dramatic movements, but I want more oomph coming out of them. I guess is my complaint. And then I did really
Oh, wait.
appreciate.
Quick rehash for anyone who doesn't know what AoE is. Area
Oh,
of
thank you.
effect. That's a video game and Dungeons and Dragons thing.
Yeah. Sorry, I play a character that casts a lot of elemental spells, so
Yeah,
I'm,
it's like
I'm sitting here kind of critiquing what I envision my D&D character doing.
yeah, so like if
Uh,
you threw a Molotov cocktail and then you just have a spread of fire everywhere, that spread of fire is an area of effect.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
One small thing I did appreciate with the magic and her casting was that it took time and that Lan had to act as the melee protection to like keep the Trollocs off her long enough that she could get the spell out.
Yeah, that was really
I
cool. I liked how they did that.
I really liked it because I feel like in so many fantasy shows the magician just like OP, just kill everything. Like usually there's the oh well, I'm out of energy excuse, but I liked the additional okay, she's gonna kill everything, but this takes a second.
Yeah,
Like
it's
Lan needs
she's very powerful but also very vulnerable,
yes, so
which is I
she's
think appropriate balance
agreed.
to it.
That's a lot better than some shows where just the
Like I am the sorcerer and you cannot touch me.
exactly.
Kerplow.
Yeah, basically. Um and I kind of like having I also like having those limitations in magic established right away. So again,
Oh
they
yeah.
really just giving us everything, introduction to every single piece of thing they can come up with. And then we get through the rest of the town fight. Perrin has a bad time. Everyone's having a bad time.
Perrin has an exceptionally bad time.
Perrin has an exceptionally bad time compared to most others.
Uh
But we don't
yeah.
got a spoiler for the episode if for some reason you're listening to our podcast and not watching the episode.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this should be a post podcast. Like listen to this after you watch it. Like I
Definitely.
wouldn't it wouldn't really make sense to listen to this beforehand.
Yeah. Um
I mean, can we just say what happens? I feel like we need to talk about it.
yeah, spoiler warning. Perrin goes into berserker mode basically
And he
and
just puts a
uh,
hatchet in his wife's stomach.
entirely by accident because he thought she was a Trollic and it's
Yeah,
so sad and gross
yeah.
and just
He
like
went full fight or flight, and the fight never ended for him. And
yeah.
unfortunately, he killed his wife.
I mean, I don't
It's an extreme oh shit moment.
yeah, that like you're just getting over the oh shit of the Trollocs because now Moraine is like nuking everything. And then they throw that at you on top of it all. And uh like part of me, like obviously parents always going to blame himself for this, but also part of me is like, okay, if someone's swinging an axe around, say something before you walk up to them. Like call out
Yeah,
to obviously she's not going to think of this. She's panicking. There's Trollocs everywhere.
yeah. It's
Whatever.
like one of
I'm
those
not blaming her.
things.
I'm not trying to think of blame.
Perrin's only going to blame himself, but like Perrin's not at fault. Like
Yeah,
it
this is
was the most horrific situation, and you know he was doing what he could, and he was lost in the fight. There
yeah.
wasn't anything he could do about it. There wasn't really anything his wife could do about it. It was just
Oh,
like the purest of accidents.
yeah, because I mean, she could have called out already, and he just didn't hear.
Right.
You
It's,
know,
you know, he was fighting for his life and
just
just
didn't
couldn't
stop.
stop it.
Yeah, it was rough. It was really rough to watch him. Whew,
Just
that was
lose
as bad.
everything.
That was really the moment of the red wedding where
Yeah,
they
that was
stabbed
like the
what's her face in the stomach a bunch. That it was as bad as that. That was how brutal it was.
yeah, that was the oh fuck moment
Yeah.
of the episode.
Um. So that just so that happens, and then you got Moraine. Just I appreciated Moraine was like, okay, I can kill all of them, but I am destroying this entire town to do it.
Yeah. And
Um.
then another good thing to add like to the when we were talking about Moraine, like with the magic being vulnerable, Moraine takes a hit.
Yeah.
She takes a sword
like a champ
like
too.
to the chest, like her upper chest,
And
and then Lan pulls it out. Like
yeah,
this
but
thing
like
went straight through her, and then they pulled it out, and she keeps trucking.
yeah, she's just like, well, that hurt. Ow. All right, continuing.
Yeah.
Like she does not care that
Like,
she has been
pardon me as I continue to fuck your shit up, Trollics.
after being skewered. Um yeah, that was she's just Moraine just establishes herself right away as being a badass in that
Yeah, they
fight.
made her pretty. They're like, all right, she's strong. She could do this.
Yeah, exactly. But again, she does have that vulnerability, and that's why she has Lan to save her from the dust of a falling building. Lan is the best. Sorry, I'll stop simping. I'll stop simping. I swear. Um, there's a couple of small things I wanted to mention um, throughout the episode that I noticed. For example, the yin yang murder circle.
Yep. The Lan comes across some slaughtered sheep, and it's basically the the teardrop of a yin yang.
Yes. And that was all I wrote in my notes. Yin yang murder circle.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's like a deep cut type of thing. It's no kind of spoiler, but within the universe there's uh that's essentially the yin and yang symbol without the dots is a symbol within the series that is the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai. And
mm,
so the white portion of it is for women Aes Sedai. And uh it's also referred to as the dragon's fang, and
mm,
it's a bad omen because of certain people's distaste or skepticism of the Aes Sedai. They
right.
use that symbol to call out people as evil. It's
So
basically if you really really hate your neighbor, you would scrawl that on their door.
right. So with the sheep and the shape of it, is that the Mr. Voldemort with no eyes and lots of teeth saying, "I know
Oh
you're here"?
yeah, yeah. No, that's for sure. So the Dark Rider and the Trollocs, like that was a warning shot. That
Got
that's
it.
that was basically the like
Now
uh
that's some confidence there to go up to your uh, I mean, they're the protagonist, but to go up to your enemy and go, "I know you're here and I'm giving you a warning."
well,
Like,
that's I
damn.
also thought that was interesting that because prior to the Trollocs, we see um and they name it later. It's an Eyeless. They're referred to as the Eyeless.
Right.
This Dark Rider. Um he walks into town on a horse after everyone's gone to bed,
Right.
like
Yeah.
the day before the Beltane festival. So like the night that Moraine and Lan go into the tavern, after
Right.
everyone's gone to bed, this dude just rolls up on a horse in the town and was just like, I'm gonna
Oh.
burn this motherfucker to the ground, and then leaves.
Yeah, that was
Presumably he leaves and then makes the murder circle.
right. And I thought when I saw the murder circle, I thought that it was how he made the Trollocs.
Oh, that I mean that's an interesting thought. No, the Trollocs are pre-existing,
Oh,
but
okay. So they just exist, but
yeah, they're just I mean I could explain later where the Trollocs come from, but just assume they're a thing that already pre-exists.
oh, okay. Because
Kind of
I
like
was like,
orcs and Lord of the Rings, like they're just a thing. They're there.
got you.
There's a
Um,
story for how they're made, but they exist.
because when I saw the slaughtered lambs and then later the Trollocs kind of look like a mishmash of creatures, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
it's like they killed the lambs and they came back as Trollocs or something. That's where my brain went.
it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But
um
yeah, no, so that whole thing is the dragon's fang, and that's like that's a symbol that shows up very frequently in the story. And
Gotcha.
I don't know if it'll ever be addressed in the show, but that's just a little piece of lore.
Cool. Um Only other thing well, two other things. One, Lan has his own personal bath heater in Moraine, which just that it could be warmer.
Yeah,
Like,
the, the baths
mm,
the bath scene kind of weirded me out. As much as amazing as Land's ass is, that bath scene was a little weird to me.
it confused me. Like, it didn't strike me as particularly weird, but it made me think like, oh, are they an item? Like, are they dating?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a
But it
yeah.
was. I feel like they just wanted to kind of say, hey, we're kind of Games of Thrones, and that here's a butt. That's what that scene was for. We won't
Right.
show boobs, but we'll give you this butt.
I mean, yeah, I'm almost like I'm not saying it should happen or I want it, but I'm curious at like what level of nudity
I
they
mean,
would go to.
they had the opportunity for a sex scene between Rand and Egwene. Uh,
That part was weird for me too. I was like, because it
I
was
was
like they
like,
came
guys,
down.
don't do it in the kitchen. You nasty.
I think they went upstairs.
I hope they did
Well,
because
because
they
he's
start
because
hanging out in the kitchen.
he comes downstairs and he's just like, you didn't wake me up.
Ah, that's
But
right.
yeah, no, it was just like the whole thing where it's just like, oh cool, they're making out, and then it clips to like Egwene presumably naked but like covered up with a blanket in front of the fire, and then Rand comes down shirtless. And it was one of those things where I was like, I sat there and I was like, well, this is a weird scene. Oh wait, did they just fuck? Like it
It took
wasn't
me a second
immediately
too.
clear for me that I was like, and then he came downstairs shirtless and like, you didn't wake me up, and I was like, oh, they had sex.
Yeah, it definitely took me a minute
Weird.
as well to kind of make that connection initially, just like in the few seconds you just see Egwene um like chilling by the fire. I was like, what a weird pajamas.
Yeah, it's like, all right, like bold decision.
Yeah. Um yeah, that was interesting, but I feel like they had all those opportunities if they were going to go for an R rating at a I
Uh,
mean, obviously the gore itself probably pushes it to R, but they might be trying to uh keep away from any direct sexual content. At least
maybe.
that's the vibe I'm getting. That might change, but in the
Yeah.
first episode they had two opportunities to be explicitly sexual and all we got was butt. So,
Right.
um we talked a little about Daddy Rand. I know he has a name, but I just call him Daddy Rand.
Yeah. For reference,
He,
his name is Tam Althor.
he's Daddy Rand.
I mean, yeah.
I just wanted to point out he has this really cool crane on his sword that they
Yeah.
like kept on it for a split second, and we talked about it a little bit once we finished with the episode about how that's don't want to spoil it too much, but it does indicate some things about him apparently.
Yeah, it's an important thing that you'll want to look out for, and it's referred to as the heron mark.
Mm,
So it's, I won't talk about it now, but that is another important theming thing that comes up in the lore.
got it. Um,
But I would imagine they would talk about it in the show because it is,
Pretty important. Okay.
yeah, it
Uh,
becomes relevant.
got it. So, last few things to wrap up on. Nynaeve got carried away. Um, They don't show her death on screen though, so suspicious. But I really loved how quickly everything got established in this episode. Oh, and we end on the main quad. I was about to say trio, and then I was like, wait, there's four of them.
Right.
Then we end with the main quad going off and following Moraine and Lan onto their quest to figure out who's the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, essentially, there's the looming threat of Moraine
Or
outright
Trollic.
states of like, the
Yeah,
Trollics are here because of you guys. One of you is. She looks at the four: Egwene, Rand, Matt, and Perrin, and says, "One of you is the Dragon Reborn. So the Trollics are chasing you. Come with me if you don't want your entire village leveled and killed."
yeah, basically.
So
And
they oblige.
yeah. And they did a really good job, I think, setting everything up. Lots of dominoes have been placed up. Um, not super deep in the character establishment, but really good at giving you, I think, a very full picture of the entire world,
Yeah.
which I'm excited for them to expand upon. I could do without the Moraine voiceovers, though. Not a
Eh,
fan of voiceovers, but
all right.
that's a
No,
nitpick.
so my defense of the Moraine voiceovers, the beginning monologue is a very good and brief synopsis of explaining a general idea of the backstory and then how that is relevant to now, of just like, there was a dude named the Dragon and he fucked the entire world up, and because of the universe we live in, he was reborn, so we have to find him so it doesn't get fucked up again. And then
Yeah.
the outro monologue uh is much appreciated for me and probably for readers of the book, because the monologue she gives at the end of the book is the, sometime in the third age, a wind blows across the misty mountains. It was neither the beginning nor the end, but it was a beginning. I completely paraphrase that, but that whole phrase, every single book in the Wheel of Time, chapter 1, that is the
First
first
that.
paragraph of every book.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
There,
I'll give him
so
that.
that is how Robert Jordan started every story of the Wheel of Time, was with that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's like a huge nod to
I
the readers.
I will forgive that entirely. The last one that can be forgiven. For that cute nod. Thank you for that little tidbit. I had no idea. I
Yeah.
I I I read the first chapter through an audiobook, but I completely forgot it.
Yeah, usually the
um,
books are, there's a prologue, and then once the prologue ends, that is the beginning of every book.
gotcha.
That phrase.
Um, so I didn't remember the phrase at all, but also I only heard it the once. So
Yeah, no, I've what, like 14 books over 4 different readings. Like, I've heard it,
yeah,
like
I'm
80
sure.
times.
Sure. Um, I think that's all I have to say on the first episode. Do
Ooh,
you have
does that mean,
any
do I get
thoughts? Do you want
to
to?
do I get to talk about stuff that only readers would know
Yes.
now?
So letting the listeners know, if you don't want to know anything about the books, if you don't want to risk getting spoiled on something, again, we're
Yeah,
avoiding
I'm gonna do
the.
my best to do non to not spoil anything, but I do want to talk about specific things from the book that may or may not change your feelings on stuff. So if you've not read the books and are only watching the show, and this is your first experience with the Wheel of Time, I recommend you stop listening now, and for all the readers or people who, maybe only read once, or if you're a diehard like me,
Mhm.
stick around. I want to talk about a couple of things.
Yes, there are 3 caveats to that. Did I say that word right?
Caveat,
Caveat? Yeah, sure.
caveat, you're good.
Okay. Spoilers I'm trying to avoid, so I've requested Gavin not do these at all. I don't want to know who the dragon is until it's revealed in the show. I don't want to know what the final ending is. So basically, don't spoil the last book. If it's a major plot point, dance gently around it. um,
Right.
and unless I absolutely love a character and need the forewarning, I don't want to know about major character deaths. That being said, if someone died in the episode, we will definitely be talking about it now.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm not gonna just as a rule of thumb that I'm gonna give myself, I'm not gonna reveal character deaths at all. If Z wants to know a character death, that will be said off recording.
Yes.
I'm not gonna spoil because like I don't know what characters people are gonna get attached to, so I don't wanna,
Right. Well,
break
see,
their heart ahead of time.
I specifically, if I fall, if I'm simping for somebody, I want to know. But we'll talk
Right.
about that off. That's an off podcast. So no
Yeah.
major character deaths will be spoiled in this, and the ending isn't spoiled, and who the dragon is won't be spoiled yet.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna get into some of my notes here. So with the opening scene with Moraine and her monologue, I like how it's a good brief summary of what is happening. It kind of already gives you an idea of like the concept of the Wheel of Time, because like the Wheel of Time isn't just the title of everything. This is an understanding that every character in this world has of how the world works. And it's actually they talk about it at Beltane with Rand and his father putting up the lantern for Rand's mother. They talk about it a little bit more so you can get an explanation. It's the idea that the Wheel of Time is that there was no beginning or end. The world has just been ever present, and in each age every soul is reborn. So there's like, in theory, there are no new souls. It's just the people's lives get recasted into life, and
Right.
they have no knowledge of their previous life. It's just, it's like a similar thing. Think of it as like, uh reincarnation, whereas you're not going to know your previous life, but everybody returns to the earth.
And it goes
um
a little past that, right? Where like not only does everyone come back, just from my understanding from what you've talked about before, but every like history itself gets repeated.
yes, so it like, without getting like super complex about it, but the every age uh has a general theme, like so a lot of things change, but like in very general terms, similar to how we talk about history in real life, where we make the phrase history repeats itself, there are patterns in history. Like, they talk about how no empires lasted longer than 250 years. Empires always rise and empires always fall. That
Yeah, yeah.
So that kind of like pattern of behavior tends to repeat itself through the ages. So but it's not a hard and true like predestination type thing of like, oh no, this one person is fated to die a very specific way. No, it's kind of like parallel universe type thing where like,
Got
this person does different things because they're not the same person, different things happen, but the theming stays the same.
it. Got it.
And that's, honestly, I think that's the best way that you can describe like the physical Wheel of Time. It's a very complex idea that gets uh talked about constantly through the books, and you kind of have to piece together the meaning behind it. It's very similar to like not quite, but similar to like a religious doctrine where there's so much complexity to it that you can't fully understand it, because even the people who do understand it don't know all of it, like
Right.
that kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
an unknowable that you just get the general vibe of.
Okay.
So I like the synopsis introduces that idea, and they follow up with Rand and Tam talking about it. The other important things in that beginning scene is that um, a important reference that may come up later is and you actually just pulled it up on because we're looking at clips. Moraine has a statuette of a man sitting cross-legged, and she folds it up into a
Mhm.
cloth and pockets it. So that is an Angreal, and it is a thing that Aes Sedai used to help them channel the power better. It's kind
Mm,
of like a strength booster.
got it. It's so
Um,
cool that even in the first scene, there's already that many references.
yeah, they
Like,
immediately like there's just and they'll probably talk about it later because they are important tools in the world, but I just don't know how specific or when they will get into that. So I don't consider that a spoiler, but that is like an Angreal that helps Moraine be more powerful.
got it.
Um but and then so in a combination with the opening scene and then the second scene with the chase, there's really cool theming in their outfits. Moraine has a very blue and black centered outfit, and then the writers in the second scene have red and black.
Hmm.
And that is a helpful design choice because within the White Tower, where all the all the Aes Sedais are trained and essentially part of this group, they're separated into different groups called the Ajas, and they're separated by color. So there's the blue
Ah,
Aja, the red Aja, the green Aja. There's quite a few of them. And so I like the theming that, you know, they're wearing the colors of their Aja, and I think it's also their rings, the gemstone in their ring is the color of their Aja.
got it.
Um, that's cool. The chase scene is
Their,
cool. Or go ahead.
well, I was gonna say their outfits are also awesome.
Oh yeah, no, they're super cool, and I love how it's not just dresses. It's kind of, you know, it's like
Yeah,
almost like a rider's outfit, but then with a longer cloak. Like
yeah,
it's not because I mean the Wheel of Time was started writing way back when, and it took a very classical fantasy approach where it's like, you know, women wear dresses, like,
right.
oh, it's weird if they don't kind of thing. It's a very, you know, hard stuck stereotype in fantasy of just like, oh, it's weird for women to be masculine in any way shape or form. So I'm really happy that the show has
Kind of
broken
accept,
past that.
right? Yeah.
um but yeah, so a couple things I noticed in the second scene. There's the red theming of the red sisters, you know, all I think they mentioned that somewhere in the show, but you know, all the Aes Sedai refer to each other as sisters
Yeah.
kind of deal. So the red sisters are chasing this dude, and there's um so they indirectly talk about how the person they are chasing, who's a man, uses magic.
Right.
Um, because the head, the blonde woman at the head of the pack, that are I know her name and I don't think I should reveal it yet.
Okay.
But but she, talks about where it's like this power is meant for women, and when you touch it, you make it dirty.
Yeah.
So it very, very loosely implies that the man can use magic, and then they do what they do, which I don't think it's a spoiler. The reason why he screams is that they remove his ability to use magic.
Ah.
And that is called gentling. And it cuts them off from the source. And the source is the source of all magic in the world.
Makes sense.
So that's what they're doing to him. And I like how they immediately she says when you touch the power you make it dirty, and then there's this whole thing where the scene starts with two men running, and then it's just him,
yeah.
and it was like he was talking to a friend.
Yeah.
And his friend tells him, you have to, like, you can save us, use it. And then he's like, wait, stop, just don't hurt him. And then they're like, who are you talking about? Oh, the madness has already taken you. So I like that setup that men who use magic are dangerous because they're not in control. So that's very cool. Couple other things that I wanted to touch on. So another lore thing that is not a spoiler, right after they gentle the man, Moraine and Lan are talking about how they need to go to the Two Rivers. Moraine makes a reference and says there's rumors of 4 ta'veren in the Two Rivers, and they never say what ta'veren means.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so ta'veren are essentially I don't want to use, like, it's not the right phrasing, but like the chosen ones. They're essentially ta'veren are important people that will change the world. The world will change around them because they are powerful within the wheel. It's another concept of the Wheel of Time, is that a ta'veren is a person in the wheel that the weaves of other people's lives will be shaped by the actions of that ta'veren.
All right.
So they can actively change the world just by existing without any input from, like, they're not deciding how the world's going to change, but their actions have a greater butterfly effect than anyone else.
So lots of consequences, which
consequences and rewards. It's not a positive or a negative thing. It just is, kind of deal.
Okay. Well, I would say like their actions have heavier consequences than.
Yeah, there's a bigger. They make a bigger splash in the pond when you're throwing rocks. There's a bigger wave, whether it's good or bad.
Knowing that, which I don't feel spoiled knowing that at all, but like now knowing that, I'm now looking at every little thing they're all doing, like, which I already was. And I've noticed in the other episodes on like,
yeah, it's like Moraine established that they're important, and they don't say like you 4 are ta'veren, but I feel like that's, the logical leap. There are 4 ta'veren, the 4 that leave with Terrain or Moraine. I confuse the two words. Are the ta'veren,
right?
And then just another weird note, just the men who are running, just because of their design and their hair, I made a guess that they're probably from the Borderlands, which is a nationality within the Wheel of Time. The Borderlanders wear their hair in top knots, similar to Lan. Lan wears his hair in a top knot, so he's from the Borderlands.
Got
So
it.
that's a fun little tidbit. There was some differences in like characters' origins that were pretty interesting. Um,
Okay.
so uh, obviously, so I'll start. Rand, they kind of kept. Rand's pretty much the same as he was in the books. His
Mm.
is pretty straightforward. Same with Egwene. Egwene is pretty straightforward. Nynaeve is a little bit different. Um, Purely based on the scene. There's a scene where Nynaeve is cleaning a spiritual water well within the village, and Moraine creeps up on her
Oh
and is
yeah.
talking to her. And so in that conversation, uh, Moraine basically brings up Nynaeve's past, saying that you weren't born here in the Two Rivers. Your parents died and you were adopted, and someone took you here, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Um, that's not Nynaeve's backstory in the
Oh.
books,
Okay.
but it is an interesting phrasing that I'm not going to talk about
Mm-hmm.
because there's a parallel in the books, and I don't know how they're going to use this in the series. So it's like,
Ah,
it may or may not be a spoiler because I don't know what their future plans are.
got it.
But that questioning of Nynaeve, I feel, is significant in a
Okay.
way. Um, Matt was interesting because Matt in the books is, he's just kind of a rapscallion, and like, yeah, he likes to gamble and he like pulls pranks,
Mm-hmm.
but like, it was interesting because like Matt in the books starts off as very much like a B character. Like he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like he's not, there's no focal point put on him. But in the show they build a lot of sympathy for him cuz they show his family life and his sisters, and kind of, in the show his life is kind of fucked up. Like his dad's an alcoholic philanderer, his mother is a mega alcoholic and apparently fucking hates him,
Right.
and he's basically left to fend for himself and his sisters.
Mm-hmm.
In the books, they don't talk about his mother, but they talk about his sisters, and they're nice girls, and they tattle on him when he does
Mm-hmm.
pranks. And his father is a respectable horse tradesman. Like he does his childhood's normal, so to
Got it.
speak. And then with Perrin, this was interesting. So in the books, Perrin is not married at the beginning. In fact, and this is why I was also kind of weirded out by the implication of Rand and Egwene having sex, is that in the books, all of the farm boys, Rand, Matt, and Perrin, are kind of just like clueless farm boys
Mm.
who have like the most they've ever done is kissed a girl. Like
Ah,
like they have no, yeah, they're just dumb boys that don't know like how ladies work, kind of deal. like
women
um
scary.
yeah, pretty much. They're just like the whole vibe is just like, I just really don't understand women, man. Like they say one thing, they do another, and I just don't fucking get it. Like it's literally like like high school kids being like, I don't understand how any of this works.
Are
Like,
they are they aged up in the TV show?
no, they're not.
Oh,
Funnily enough, like in the books, they're all 18 plus. Like they're supposed to be like 20 years old in the
yeah. I think in the
books.
I think the show established they're all 20
Yeah,
because they
because
say it was 20
Egwene's
years ago.
Egwene
Yeah.
gets her braid on her 20th birthday type deal. Very
Yeah.
similar to the books. The women's circle and the braid, they kind of, there's a whole different lore and backstory for the women's circle and the braids, but not super relevant. It's just a different retelling of it, and I'm not angry about it.
Okay.
But yeah, so Perrin's not married, and then so I thought that was weird at the beginning, but then they resolved it in the most fucking tragic way possible.
Yeah.
Because I went like, huh, that's not right. And then he put the axe in her belly, and I was like, well, I knew something was gonna have to happen, but why'd you gotta do it like that? Like, you just did
Right?
Perrin dirty.
Yeah. That definitely, like, I was like, you couldn't have just, like, 2 seconds earlier had the, I mean, they even had the Trollic, like, slam her into the wall. And, like,
Yeah.
when that happened, I was like, okay, well, if she was pregnant, she is not anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think I know we're running over a little bit, but I did have a couple more things that I wanted to
I
mention.
I think we can let this one go a little extra long. I'll reassure our listeners that the next 2 episodes are probably going to be shorter.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of content in the first episode, and then the following episodes, while still having a lot of stuff in them, is the beginning episode is establishing a lot of stuff very
There's a
quickly.
lot of lore.
And then the following episodes follow up on that lore by letting the story play out more.
Yeah, definitely.
Um
So it's a little, we can talk a little more about the movement, but this is like, there's so many little details we're catching. Um,
so the other thing is the trader that comes into town, Pedon Thane. He is an important character in the books, and I don't want to say anything spoilery, but there is a scene while the Trollocs are attacking where he
right,
is
I forgot we were talking
standing
about that.
very calmly by
Yeah.
his cart, and then he just kind of dips,
Yep.
and that is with knowing the books, that is a very subtle but important scene that I found very
I
interesting how
I
they
did
played
make a
that
note.
out.
I made a note of it and I forgot to bring it up in the actual when we were talking in the just the episode bit. But yeah, that happened and I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, so the readers know why that happens, and I won't go further on that, but that was a very interesting and subtle way of
Mm,
starting that thought, I would
got it.
say.
Okay.
Um and then let's see my other notes. Uh I already talked about the sheep circle as the dragon's fang. A very interesting point, and a theme that's going to come up a lot. Uh, and then so there's the heron marked blade.
Right.
That's interesting. For the readers, and it's in the books. It's not immediately understood later, but it is said like very briefly after uh they flee the village. You essentially find out that heron mark blades are only held by blade masters, who
Mm.
are like the most highly skilled swordsmen in the world.
Oh.
So that, like, it raises the question of where did Tamal Thor get the heron mark blade?
Right.
Where and how did he get it?
So Daddy Rand has some secrets.
Yeah, there that it's I won't say more, but it opened that I was knowing that it opens a line of questioning, and I'm curious where they go with it in the show.
Cool.
Um there's that, and then in so this is really really obscure, and I actually only caught this. I've watched the first episode about 4 times now. Um and I only caught this on my fourth viewing. And this
Mm-hmm.
is a very, very subtle thing.
Okay.
But so during the Trollic fight, Perrin and his wife are in the forge protecting people and fighting Trollics.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reference, and I think it is directly referencing the book for later events, and I think a very important piece of symbology or symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Boondock Saints ruined that word for me. Um, and it's like one of those things where like it could have been purely coincidental, but me knowing the books, like it's such a deep cut that I'm not sure how they did that by accident. Like it's so weirdly specific that
Okay,
I
what is it?
can't tell. So during the fight, we know Perrin picks up the axe and he is
Mm-hmm.
fighting with the axe, and it is a half moon bladed axe.
Uh-huh.
Concurrently with that, Perrin's wife is fighting and she is using a smith's hammer.
Okay.
So in the books, Perrin was the smith's apprentice and used a smith's hammer. Um, and when he leaves the two rivers, uh, the smith that he's apprenticing under gives him the half moon axe as protection, and he takes both the smith's hammer and the axe with him. And then
Mm.
because, and I won't say what it is because it will be a spoiler, but readers will know what I'm talking about. There is an internal conflict with Perrin where he has to make the decision to carry the hammer or the axe.
Mm.
And so that
Ooh.
scene with his wife holding the hammer and him holding the axe, that feels like a very deep cut telegraph.
Yeah, like psychologically, he has to make the decision. Maybe it could even come back around. Like I think they're setting this up, but he has to decide, can he let go of his guilt and let go of his wife's death?
Right. In the books there is an extreme internal conflict with Perrin, and the phrase constantly comes up of will you choose the hammer or the axe? And
Mm.
that scene, having them specifically use those, I was like, that
That is
feels
a
way too specific for it to be a coincidence.
Yeah, that is that
And,
if someone particularly picked that out, I agree that feels way too specific, but like props to whoever was like, no, she needs to have this hammer and he needs to use this
yeah,
hammer.
like, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, if it was just like,
Mhm.
oh, she just uses a hammer because she's a blacksmith,
Right.
or
Well,
if someone who read the books was just like, no, give her the hammer and he holds the axe. This is gonna be
Brandon
really fucking cool.
Brandon Sanderson was just like
Yeah, Brandon
standing off
Sanderson
to
was
the and
just
like,
like,
no, no, that one.
use the hammer.
Yeah. He's just on set going, no, 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 give her that one. And give him
Yeah.
that one.
So I think readers of the book will know exactly what I'm talking about, and I don't feel like I've spoiled anything for you, but I
I
think I've given you something to think about
Yeah, yeah.
with parents conflict.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
no.
I saw
I
that, and it literally it took me 4 times to watch that episode to catch that.
Yeah. So that's
That
really cool
That's
that
4 hours of viewing time I had to spend to see that. And it is literally, you see the hammer for like a second.
I can't even catch it because it's so fast and there's
It's
so much chaos. So like one
it's
props to whoever put that in there too. Props to you, Gav, for spotting that even on the fourth watch. That is
It's
hard.
like there's like a couple of frames where Layla, I think it's either Layla or Nayla with an N, and I couldn't
I think it's
catch the
Layla
okay. Well,
because the
Perrin's
captions have her.
wife. Yeah, Layla, she swings to hit a Trollic and you can see the hammerhead. And that's and then that right after that's when she gets pinned to the wall.
Got it.
But yeah, no, that was like it was one of those things where I could not believe that I caught it, and then it was like there's no way that they like, are they really making that reference? Like what was that on purpose? Was it an accident? Like what?
Yeah.
It was the Charlie Day pointing at the conspiracy theory board, like just chain smoking a cigarette. It's just like it's all conspiracy, man. The links. What do the numbers mean, Mason?
One question I have that, if it's a spoiler, just let me know if this is a spoiler. But
Okay.
when the Trollic grabs Nynaeve and runs off with her, was that in the books? Her getting kidnapped or separated from them at all, or did the Trollic specifically take her for a reason?
So I will say, within the context of the show, they definitely took her for a reason. And I won't tell you why because I know why.
Okay.
But that whole bit is completely divergent from the book. So
gotcha.
The book, Trollic attacks happen. Rand comes down with the mountain with his father to get him healed. Moraine heals him, but his father is still extremely sick. Like, he needs to recover naturally, but she saved him from dying from the poison. So Daddy All-Thor is passed out, doesn't know what's happening. And then Moraine does her bit where it's like, no, the Trollocs are after you. The four of you have to come with us. So she, like, Egwene, Matt, Perrin, and Rand, like, you need to come with us. And yeah, and there's some other bits and bobs that I'm not gonna say because I'm just not gonna say them. So
okay.
But and so so the other thing is that this is a spoiler alert specifically for the show. You already know what it is. If you've only seen the first episode and you haven't read the books, you definitely need to stop listening right now. Tom Merlin, the Gleeman, is also at the Two Rivers. Tom Merlin shows up at the same time as Padon Thane and Moraine. They all show up the same day.
Okay.
And when they flee, Tom Merlin goes with Matt, Perrin, Rand, and Egwene.
Got it.
And he goes with the premise of saying, well, I need to travel anyways, may as well travel in company. And then he also, like, makes a comment of that he wants to look after the boys because of that inherent skepticism of Aes Sedai. He's basically, he goes like, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna make sure that she doesn't screw you over, kind of deal. So they're all the ones that leave, and then shortly after they leave, Nynaeve tracks them and shows up. So that's, but like, Nynaeve never got hurt or dragged away in the Trollic fight in the books. The Trollocs attacked and she was just helping heal people in the aftermath.
Got it. Okay. I was just curious on how that all went down.
Yeah. So that was the interesting divergence that, like, that, and I found that interesting that, like, Tom Merlin wasn't at the Two Rivers when all this went down.
Right. Do you have anything else? Because we are like an hour in, over an hour.
Oh yeah. Oh no, we're sitting at an hour and a half, baby.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Might want to. You don't
Yeah,
include this
I'm
part in the actual podcast, but we're gonna have to redo the introduction
oh
and
for sure.
explain like this is an extra long episode.
I think I went over everything that I wanted to go over.
Awesome.
I think I'm happy with that.
Cool. Well, we're gonna close it out here for episode 1. Um, thank you all for listening. I know this was an extra long episode. The next
Uh,
episodes are probably going to be closer to 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, depending on what
Sorry,
they
I'm a nerd and I'm excited
say.
about this TV show.
No, and I found it all fascinating, and I enjoyed breaking it down. The uh, we will go on to the next episode, and it's just called Shadows Waiting in our next podcast episode. So
Yeah.
again, thank you for listening.
And if you like what you've heard and want to hear us talk more about the Wheel of Time, uh, be sure to leave a like or a comment. Tell us what you think about the episode. And if you want to hear more, subscribe and you'll get a notification when we put out the next episode.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, thanks for checking out our post show discussion.
We'll see you guys next time.
Well, bye.